Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Monday, May 18th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.64% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,666, a high of 9,944, and a low of 9,450. That's $1 for 10,353 Satoshis. Volume is very high for a Monday, with more than 10,609 Bitcoins trading hands. Margin longs continue to lead the day, but down slightly from 81% to 79% of the market leading that direction. We're going to go ahead and get started this morning with a reading from Fight Club while everyone likes the show and gets ready. It takes people a little time to turn on their browsers, get that email, see that tweet. Whatever it is, I don't know how people get here. But it seems like the first 5 minutes of the show are generally better spent reading a book. This is, of course, Fight Club. The stuff in the Federal Express package, I tell Tyler in the Impala, that was the same stuff we made soap out of. Ever since silicone turned out to be dangerous, collagen has become the hot item to have injected to smooth out wrinkles, or to puff up thin lips or weak chins. The way Marla had explained it, most collagen you get is cheap from cow's fat that's been sterilized and processed. But that kind of cheap collagen doesn't last long in your body. Whenever you get it injected, say in your lips, your body rejects it and starts to poop it out. 6 months later, you have thin lips again. The best kind of collagen, Marla said, is in your own fat, sucked out of your thighs, processed and cleaned and injected back into your lips, or whatever. This kind of collagen will last. The stuff in the fridge at home, it was Marla's collagen trust fund. Whenever her mom grew any extra fat, she had it sucked out and packaged. Marla says the process is called gleaning. If Marla's mom doesn't need the collagen herself, she sends the packets to Marla. Marla never has any fat of her own, and her mom figures that the familial collagen would be better than Marla ever having to use the cheap cow kind. Street lights along the boulevard come through the sales agreement in the window and prints, "as is," on Tyler's cheek. Spiders, Tyler said, could lay their eggs and larvae, could tunnel under your skin. That's how bad life can get. Right now, my almond chicken is in its warm, creamy sauce, tastes like something sucked out of Marla's mother's thighs. It was right then, standing in the kitchen with Marla, that I knew what Tyler had done. Hideously wrinkled, and I knew why he sent candy to Marla's mother. Please help. I say, Marla, you don't want to look in the freezer. Marla says, do what? We never eat red meat, Tyler tells me in the Impala, and he can't use chicken fat or the soap won't harden into a bar. The stuff, Tyler says, is making us a fortune. We paid the rent with that collagen. Little bit of Fight Club there. I get the morning started right. Checking out our top story, I think everyone's top story in the world. Coronavirus vaccine trial by Moderna shows promising early results. The company said its preliminary test in 8 healthy volunteers was safe. It is on an accelerated timetable to begin a larger human trial soon. Very exciting news on a possible vaccine. This is the first good news in several months. Again, it is very early, though. So, as much as it's possible that this is the super cure that we need, it's just as possible that it is a dead end or a wrong turn. We are, however, incredibly optimistic. The first coronavirus vaccine to be tested in people appears to be safe and able to stimulate an immune response against the virus, its manufacturer Moderna announced on Monday. The findings are based on results from the first 8 people who each received 2 doses of the vaccine, starting in March. Those people, healthy volunteers, made antibodies that were then tested in human cells in the lab and were able to stop the virus from replicating. The key requirement for an effective vaccine. The levels of those so-called neutralizing antibodies matched the levels found in patients who had recovered after contacting the virus in the community. The company said that it is proceeding on an accelerated timetable, with the second phase involving 600 people to begin soon, and a third phase to begin in July involving thousands of healthy people. The FDA gave Moderna the go-ahead for the second phase earlier this month. If the trials go well, the vaccine could become available for widespread use by the end of this year or early 2021, Dr. Tal Zaks, Moderna's chief medical officer, said in an interview. How many doses might be ready is not clear, Dr. Zaks said, but we're doing our best to make as many millions as possible. Currently, the Moderna stock was up around 40% on this news. According to this article, it was up 23% previously, now up 40%. The entire stock market is likely up. The earlier report I saw is that the Dow was up around 700 points, presumably entirely based on this vaccine news. The first good news we've had in several months. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.19% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,694, a high of 9,944, and a low of 9,450. That's $1 for 10,315 Satoshis. Our top stories in Bitcoin. Bitcoin hardens, fiat eases. 4 things to watch for Bitcoin price this week. The fundamentals of Bitcoin are adapting to the halving. That's right, the network difficulty is due for a decrease, likely going down around 3% on Tuesday. A new futures gap has appeared. The 9,500 zone means Bitcoin is starting the week by filling a gap that opened up between 2 weekly trading sessions of CME Group's Bitcoin futures. As noted by Cointelegraph earlier on Monday, the gap, the difference between the end of one trading session and the start of another, is currently between 9,440 and 9,660. Bitcoin has a tendency to fill such gaps with price movements. Last week, a giant gap was filled over several days. Fed reconfirms money printing activities.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
That's right. And recently they went on 60 Minutes and said that they have flooded the system with money. Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did. Asked where the trillions of dollars came from in addition to bond purchases, Powell replied, "We print it digitally." Expect more on this later. I think we have the 60 Minutes clip as well that we'll play for you. And macro reacts to the Fed. Other macro factors include a noticeable uptick in the price of oil, with West Texas Intermediate climbing above $30 for the first time in 2 months. Bitcoin has traditionally been less impacted by oil volatility, as was shown when some futures contracts went negative last month. Interesting stuff about Bitcoin. The U.S. just destroyed a potential dollar rival. Is Bitcoin next? No. No, it's not. Even though Forbes' page is covered with ads and you can barely read it, they're mainly talking about Telegram and their so-called decentralized ton token, which Telegram has chosen to cancel this week. Naturally, any idiot knows that Bitcoin is not a centralized company like Telegram. Bitcoin did not ask for permission to innovate, and Bitcoin doesn't care about the Federal Reserve, Donald Trump, or the U.S. financial regulators. It was very easy for them to shut down Telegram and their project. They likely just went to Telegram's corporate headquarters, knocked on their door, and told their CEO, "If you do this, you'll go to jail." It's much harder to do this with Bitcoin, as no one knows the CEO of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, and he doesn't even really control the project. The code is already out there. So no, Bitcoin will not be destroyed by the US dollar. Sorry, Forbes. As the US pumps trillions into the economy, Bitcoin price likely to be affected. Oh, really? You think so? That's smart.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Let's move on. Stablecoin supply breaks $10 billion as traders demand dollars over Bitcoin. Well, that's one way of saying it. Another way would be the way they say down here, as usually traders were trading against, here it is, altcoin traders have historically preferred to use Bitcoin or even Ether as the currency that prices other tokens. But during the last 2 years, that trend has shifted significantly. Now they mostly trade against stable coins. So it's not so much that they're demanding dollars instead of Bitcoin. It's just that they're doing their trading between Bitcoin, a risky asset, and stablecoins, allegedly a non-risky asset. This is just a choice by the traders. It's not a demand. Let's move on. We talked about the virus vaccine this morning from Moderna. The first positive news we've had in months. This is great news. I don't want to get too excited, don't want to be overly optimistic, but we do have a possibility of a working coronavirus vaccine. It worked on 8 people. The next test is 600 people, so much more people, hopefully same results. This is no time for mega numerophobia. Rather than see the $1 trillion relief packages as large or even bold, you should see them for what they really are, an appropriate response to a once-in-a-century economic calamity. And a lot of people are talking about how it could be worse after the second outbreak and how the real problem could be poverty or the loss of the economy. But our economy is run by Keynesians. Whether you like it or not, they print money when they have a crisis. That's their religion. We have a crisis. They need to print money. As horrifying as it may sound, to get out of this crisis properly, they might have to print even more money. Sadly, this is the right thing to do in a Keynesian economy. This is devaluing the currency, causing inflation, reducing the value of savings accounts, printing money to save people's lives so they can stay home and they don't have to go out and get the virus. That's the best thing you can do right now. So the problem right now, as horrifying and counterintuitive as it may sound, is that they aren't printing enough money. They need to pass that House bill or something like it. They need to bail out the people, the states, and the local governments, or we're going to have an even bigger economic collapse. If you don't want to do it for the good of helping people, you can do it for your own self-interest. If we don't bail these people out, they go bankrupt and they wreak havoc on the rest of the economy, costing you more money, costing you more time inside, affecting you, because we're all interconnected, and you'd be a fool not to see that. Hey, MAGA fans, says Stephen King, almost 90,000 dead on your boy's watch. Is it enough yet, or do you need even more? Balaji writes, in this clip, fighter planes fly over an empty Disneyland to the accompaniment of triumphal music while the pandemic rages. I get that it's supposed to be symbolic, but you'd think the military would be focusing on logistics and doing this after victory. Balaji says, something I am concerned about is the question of whether the virus is severe could become a political shibboleth. We might hope that individual experiences of severe illness will eventually punch through, but the Soviet Union shows how far the denial of reality can go. Sorry, a little cough this morning. Brazilian Trump does push-ups while people die. Could you imagine if Trump could do a push-up? Whoa. But yes, please don't look at the Brazilian situation. They're still using hydroxychloroquine to allegedly treat the virus. They're also not locking down their citizens and just allowing them to run free, spreading the virus, increasing the death toll, and destroying the economy. J.K. Rowling completed her epic troll of the Bitcoin community, saying, "This is just getting silly. I'm not joining the Bitcoin community. It should be perfectly obvious by now that I've been trolling Bitcoin in the hope of boosting my significant Ethereum holdings. She's funny. I quoted the line from Hackers. This one is spicy. Let's keep her. She was great though, really. 3 bits of hard-won advice this Monday morning. When you hit a writing block, try walking away for a bit. The best ideas like doing the chasing. Number 2, good mental health means staying connected. Talking is important, especially now. And number 3, perhaps the most important thing that she learned this Monday morning, never be flippant about Bitcoin in Twitter. That's right. Never be flippant. She also says, on point 3, my mentions are still full of people trying to get me to buy Bitcoin or explain it to me. It's very kind of you, but I swear, I now feel fully educated on the subject. I think she regrets tweeting about this in the first place. She wants to go back to the wonderful world of wizards and changing the sexuality of her characters after she writes the books. That's fun too. Anyway, we've got bad news from Hong Kong. This is the news that no one wants you to know about. There's been a possible political coup in Hong Kong. Monday morning, May 18th. Watch the video as security guards drag several pro-democracy lawmakers from the Hong Kong legislature. After 9+ pro-democracy lawmakers are removed, the vote proceeds. Pro-communist Starry Lee is unanimously elected as chairperson. And I got into a little bit of a Twitter argument this morning against people who don't understand reality. They were angrily quoting the Obama speech from the graduation, saying that that was a coup. I'm sorry, friends, but this is a coup. Obama made a speech this weekend. He didn't even mention Trump's name, and he casually mocked his horrible reaction and political actions during the pandemic. That was just a speech. That was just a shot in the dark. I mean, Trump went right back at him by name and slammed him even harder. This right here, watch this guy be pulled out of the legislature. This is a lawmaker. This is like similar to our congressmen or our senators. They were just about to vote. Then they were physically removed from the room. More than nine of them removed from the room. After they'd been removed, they had the same vote, and the results went China's way. So we have serious problems in Hong Kong. The British never should have given it back. They abandoned their citizens there. Look at these wall of corrupt legislators forming. Look at the way they're pushing out the pro-democracy legislators. This is the end of Hong Kong right here. This is what a real coup looks like. We've had things like this on the floor of the Senate. One time, old man with a walking stick beat another man to death on the floor of the United States Senate. But it's been a long time. They've had fights in the Hong Kong office in the, what do they call it? The legislative office. Bureau, something like that. LegCo. But they've had fights in LegCo before. They've had slapping fights and punching fights. But this is a fight that is what the end of democracy looks like. They're going to have a vote that isn't going to go China's way. In order to make sure the vote goes China's way, they must remove 9 or more of the pro-democracy legislators from the Hong Kong legislative chamber. This is a coup. I'm sorry, Hong Kong. Obviously, the U.S. isn't going to do anything about this. Grin launched to considerable fanfare in 2019. Now the first privacy currency to test Mimblewimble is showing almost no signs of life. No signs of life from Grin. As Whale Panda says, that's what happens with all these new better than Bitcoin projects. No signs of life for Grin. Mimblewimble. Whoop. I had some fun yesterday. I watched a Taylor Swift concert from Paris. Confusing. And it reminded me of the time I got to visit Paris for a few days in 2017. I got to go to the Sacré Cœur, the Sacred Heart. It's on the little hill of Montmartre. Don't think I was supposed to take these pictures, but I grabbed them anyway. I was especially impressed by that curved dome with Jesus Christ and Joan of Arc kneeling before her. There's a nice angel, some stained glass on the side there. And I really thought that this dome helped me understand the power of medieval churches. And you just have to imagine, you work 6 days in the field, hard work, pretty much drunk every day on mead or gin or whatever you could get. You just stay drunk and you work and you work and you're drunk and you work. And then after the 6th day, the 7th day, you get to come to a place like this and you get to stand for maybe an hour, maybe 3 hours. I'm not sure how long the services were, but I know they were standing. And you would stand and you would look up at this incredible curved. Now, remember when they made the curved monitors and the curved TVs? This church has a curved monitor 1,000 years before that, right? This is incredible if you were looking at this. Also, I thought it was great the way they kind of canonized Joan of Arc after murdering her. But, that's cool too. And I just thought that this would have been a hallucinatory experience going to this church after working in the fields, like watching television, which is also a hallucination. You think that you're in another world. You're watching Knight Rider. You're watching Hasselhoff. And although it's not the perfect example, because I'm well aware this church is still under construction and much of the stained glass is modern, but this is one of the most breathtaking cathedrals that I saw, the Sagrada Familia from Barcelona. And can you imagine as a worker coming into a church or a cathedral like this, and the colored light shining over you, the incredible ceilings, the pure, like much bigger than man feeling that you experience in these places? I think it would have been highly effective towards driving more people to worship and solidifying the church. So I think these buildings are a big part of that. And it's really interesting the way that architecture and design can influence and play a part in religion. So I got all that while I was watching a Taylor Swift concert. I don't know. But I also, while I was looking back at my fun pictures from Paris, and again, these are old, and I just like sharing them. I think it's fun. It was amazing that I got to go there for even just a few days. But yes, I took about 1 million pictures of Napoleon's tomb. It looked about as big as an elephant. As you guys know, Napoleon was a shorter man. So I think France is kind of overcompensating here. But magnificent tomb, truly epic. One of the most interesting things for me, I guess you can't quite see. Oh, there you go. You can see it. The big wedge is missing. There was a chip in part of the coffin, and I wondered how that happened, if perhaps the coffin had fallen over in an earthquake or damaged. Maybe somebody took a souvenir. I don't know, but it has not been repaired. And I thought it just kind of stood out. Everything else was so perfect. So that kind of thing happens. I kind of shared with people how many pictures I took of Napoleon's tomb. I think there's at least 500 of them, maybe. But yeah, I got every single angle. I got every single option. I walked around the rest of the tomb area. There's still 2 more pages. So it was incredible. And I only got to go there for like maybe half an hour at the end of the day. So it was really cool. Shout out to Napoleon. You've got a great tomb. Don't know that you care. And this is kind of why that all started, is they showed a picture of the outside of where Taylor Swift was performing back in 2019. And it was called the Olympia. And I looked at it and I was like, I've seen that before. Whoa, that's crazy. And I thought I might have a picture. I remember that it was on the Champs-Élysées, which is not spelled that way. And yeah, there it was. I had a sweet picture of when LCD Sound System was performing there. And this they do the same thing with the neon lights. It said Taylor Swift on her concert. And boy, it would have been neat to see LCD Sound System in Paris. I also saw ads for their shows in Berlin. But later on, I would see them at Golden Gate Park. So that was pretty cool, too. They didn't tour for a long time. They broke up for a couple years. So pretty epic to see them back together again. Here we go, a little bit from the 60 Minutes yesterday. Again, YouTube, you're going to take my ad rights away, but this is fair use. We're playing this to illuminate and exemplify news stories, and we're talking about hyperinflation and the Federal Reserve. This is from 60 Minutes just last night. Let's take a look. I'll even go full screen for you guys.
simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally. And we do that by
There is an
buying
infinite
treasury
amount of
bills
cash at the Federal Reserve.
or bonds or other government guaranteed securities. And that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks.
Simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it.
So they flooded the system with money. This is, of course, good for Bitcoin. But as I was saying earlier, we do have a Keynesian economic system. Whether you guys like Austrian economics, whether you like libertarianism or whatever, our current system is Keynesianism. The tools that we have in our toolbox are Keynesian tools. The way to get out of this in a Keynesian theory is during a crisis, the government prints money. So they're doing the right thing, as horrifying as it may be. A sad farewell to Ann Mitchell, the World War II codebreaker who died at age 97 shortly after testing positive for COVID-19. For 9 hours a day, 6 days a week, until the final moments of VE Day, she used her mathematical prowess to thwart the Nazis. She was involved in the Bletchley Park code-breaking project along with Alan Turing, and she was not just one of the computers or one of the calculators that assisted on the project. She was a full partner. She made advanced mathematic decisions and really tried to understand the Enigma machine and was key to breaking that code. So incredible work by Ann Mitchell. It's sad that we have to say goodbye to her with this stupid virus, but she was incredible. Bletchley Park was incredible. The code breaking they did on the Enigma was absolutely breathtaking. Go watch the movies. Go learn more about it. The Imitation Game, I think, is the Turing movie they made. Obviously, Turing has his own very tragic story, but overall, incredible work, incredible code breaking. Probably won the war. Knowing what the enemy was doing before they did it is an incredible advantage. More than 100,000 crew members remain trapped on cruise ships 2 months after the industry shut down due to repeated COVID-19 outbreaks on ships. Many do not know when or how they will get home to their families, and what's worse, they recently stopped paying them. There are reports of suicides on the cruise ships. People are going crazy, as well as the potential spread of the virus. Some of the cruise ships do have infected crew members that they are isolating and quarantining, but who knows if that's going to work. The continued decline and collapse of the cruise ship industry is very sad, but in many ways, these crew, and I feel bad because I went on a 2-day cruise last year. I'd never been on a cruise before, but I went. It was fun, and yeah, they're basically the new slaves. You don't want to know about it, but yeah, once your employer is controlling the place that you live and sleep and how you eat, and you don't really have any other options, and especially when they've recruited you, perhaps from developing nations where you're desperate and you're very happy to be a waiter on a cruise ship, and now that's ended. This is a big mess. I don't know what they're going to do about this. There was a time there where Trump wouldn't even take the cruise ships, and they were full of Americans. So a cruise ship full of 100,000, probably developing world type people. I don't know how they're going to get home. I don't know what they're going to do with this. This is a mess. Speaking of other unstoppable messes, the grave diggers of Kano, Nigeria, one of the biggest cities in West Africa, say they are working overtime. And so many doctors and nurses have been infected with the coronavirus that few hospitals are now accepting patients. As we predicted months ago, as bad as the outbreak has been in the developed world, it would be much worse in developing nations such as Africa and South America. And now we're seeing it happen. A person who was COVID-19 positive attended a church service and exposed 180 people. Just yesterday, some moron was arguing with me on Twitter, saying that church was a safe place to go and you could still practice social distancing and you'd be fine. As I've said before, in the face of many a virus denier, this virus is better at spreading than anything we know of. A normal flu or cold virus, if you go to work and you refuse to stay home and you refuse to wear a mask, probably because you don't have any sick days, I never did, you could spread a normal cold to 8 to 10 people, right? Your whole office, a bunch of people on the floor, something like that, right? 8 to 10 people, because that's an R0. That's an R0 or an R1. That's not very exponentially powerful. This new virus might be an R3 or even an R5. So if you go out, it's not like it just spreads 1, 1, 1, and there'd be 3 of you. It's more like it spreads 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. It's exponential. It grows like crazy. They estimate that one person spreading this virus could spread it to 59,000 other people. So here we are. One person. He was asymptomatic. He did not have symptoms. He did not wear a mask. If you wear a mask and you're asymptomatic and you cough or you sneeze, the virus essentially gets caught in the mask and you protect other people from getting the virus. This guy didn't do that. This guy didn't wear a mask, and he went to a large gathering of religious and wonderful people, and he infected 180 of them. 180. One person. 180. So yeah, go outside. Spread the virus. We'll see what happens. I'll stay home. Fox News is staying home. You idiots. Just look at what other people are doing and do that. President seems to be staying home. He tests everyone he meets. Be like that. Don't be a fool. The death of couch surfing. And I thought this was going to be about the virus and everyone being afraid to host guests in their house and all that kind of thing. But it's actually sad. It's much, much worse. Couch surfing, as we all know, is a classic website where there used to be a community of people who would share their couches with international visitors. Sure, there were downsides. Some people would do it just to have pretty girls stay in the house. But there were upsides, right? Lots of people made friends, had their international visits enhanced. I know that although it wasn't couch surfing, it kind of was. My friend Ellie and Maria, who hosted me in Paris, every day, Ellie would write down kind of a list of historical sites for me to go see that were kind of clumped together so I could walk to them. And it was the neatest thing. And I never would have been able to do it myself. And Ellie did it for me just because I was a visitor in his house. I was just a nice guy crashing on his couch, snoring, waking up his whole family. But no, it was the nicest thing. And that's what a local host can do for you. A local host can say, hey, go to this restaurant, not that restaurant. They can say, hey, this museum's too crowded. Maybe you'd like this one. I really value that. And I think a lot of people got that from couch surfing, as well as a nice, cheap place to stay. And it really enhanced a lot of people's ability to travel. But that's pretty much gone now. The corporation that runs couch surfing is running it like a bunch of clowns. It's not so much that they don't need to charge fees or they shouldn't charge fees. It's the way they did it, right? They charged a $15 a year fee to maintain access to couch surfing, even if you're only just hosting. So the freeness of the people that just want to give away a place to stay, a beautiful thing to give away, that's gone because they'd have to pay $15 a year to maintain access, as well as everyone else who wanted to communicate with their friends through the website. They now have to pay $15 a year to maintain access. They didn't tell the people about this beforehand. They just froze all their accounts. So you'd log in one day, you're a host in good standing, you're a guy with a lot of friends on there, and boom, now they want $15 from you. Now, sure, a lot of people are going to pay so they can talk to their friends, so they can get a better system and get the heck out of there. But just a terrible way to run an online community. They're absolutely chasing away their users, and it's sad. This is after they already spent, it seemed to be about $20 million trying to copy Airbnb, trying to be just like them, and instead they destroyed their community, and they're pretty much on their way out now with a mirror site dragging in all their viewers and everyone else planning to leave. So goodbye to couch surfing. Beautiful idea. Nice word. Sad to see it go. And finally, we have the same quote about the Federal Reserve that they print the money digitally. I think we already played this, so we're not going to play it again.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
It's good to know that there's an infinite amount of cash in the Federal Reserve. And as they said previous, we will not run out of ammunition. We will not. Checking out the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.29% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,628, a high of 9,944, and a low of 9,450. Volume was about right for a Monday, with 10,761 Bitcoins trading hands. Margin longs declined a little bit from 81% down to 79%, but still most of the market is leaning that direction. I think we're about to head to the end of the show. I was going to check the comments or maybe the phone calls if you guys want to call in. But this is just a quick update show, trying to keep these going. Hopefully we'll be back again tomorrow with more good news. Can't have a potential vaccine every day, but maybe we can. Definitely suggest people check out the Taylor Swift concert. It was aired yesterday. I think it's on Hulu today, if you're into that kind of thing. It wasn't the 1989 album that I really favor, but it was the Lover album, which I guess is 2 albums later and still seemed quite nice. So sadly, it was only about a 30 to 40 minute concert. There were at least 2 large commercial breaks. Really broke up the feel. But I kind of figured, hey, this is kind of the last concert I'm going to go to for a while. This isn't even real. But thanks again to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. I'm going to go ahead and schedule some of our Halvening shows. I went ahead and cut that up into parts so it's easier to watch and easier to listen to. Hey, we got a new block, 1.24 megabytes, 2,948 transactions. But yes, we're going to have the Halvening show cut up into parts, making it easy to listen to. We had a lot of great guests: Adam Back, Jesse Powell, Chris Ellis, Dan Eve, Ben from Wales, Josh Kagala, so many more. It was great. You guys can check out the full 8-hour version of the Halvening show. But if that's ridiculously long for you, don't worry. I cut it up into about 10, 12 different parts, and I uploaded those. I'm going to release them slowly, just like the other videos, probably one a week, just so we can all kind of savor and remember the beautiful third halving of Bitcoin, which we all witnessed. So it's very cool. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.